The next question is, how has being an emancipated minor affected you as an adult? So I kind of did like talk about some of those things already, so I don't have like too much to say here, but the emphasis in this question is on the fact that I was an emancipated minor. So like, how did the things, I guess what I was thinking in my head is, how did the things I went through or things I learned as an emancipated minor affect me now? Like, how does it show up now that I am a young adult? So I did say, or I did write, that it's harder to trust people, and I'm less likely to want to rely on others or to ask for help, or even to, it's hard for me to even receive the help. And it's because I'm just so used to like fending for myself. I'm so used to relying on myself and just turning to myself. So I have this bad habit of like not asking people for help, because I have the mentality that like it's not their problem, it's my problem. When I'm struggling to pay my rent, it's not other people's problem to figure it out. And then I have this like this I don't want to say like toxic, but it's I just have this thought that like I don't want to inconvenience other people. I don't want to be a burden to other people. Like what it is that like I don't want someone to like regret helping me or be mad that they helped me, or like if I need help, like if I need a ride, or if I need um money because like I can't pay a bill or something like that, I will just like let my account be in overdraft. Like I spent a lot of time in 2021, 2022, and even parts of 2023 with my account in like negative or in the overdrawn state, just because like I would just be like be in my place for 2 weeks with like no money after I paid my bills, rather than to ask somebody for help, because I didn't want them to be like, I didn't want them to think to themselves, damn it, now I don't have gas money because I gave her $40. Like now I'm short on gas because I gave her a ride. Like I don't want to inconvenience anybody. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. I don't want anyone to feel like regretful that they helped me, or that they like stepped down from like their path or their climb on the mountain to like pull me up. So I just will struggle, and that's what I think becoming responsible for myself and being an emancipated minor, and just also other things in my upbringing, like that's kind of like one of those bad characteristics I think that it has left me with. I'm like slowly but surely outgrowing it, but I'm not gonna lie, it's still something I like really struggle with. Just because I've been on my own for so long, like relying on myself for so long. Another thing I wrote down is having been independent for so long. Oh, so I wrote it like in another way. Having been independent for so long, it makes it hard to allow others to be a support system for me, even when they show me that's what they want to be. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me to like just let people help me and to just receive it and just say thank you. Like I'm like, no, you don't have to, you don't have to, and they know they don't have to. Like they literally, they're saying they want to, and I'm still like, no, 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 it's okay, it's okay. Like I'll just struggle. It's okay, because I don't want you to then like regret it later or something. And that's one of the things that I do struggle with. And then another thing though, like this is like kind of more of a positive, in my opinion, but I wrote down that being emancipated gave me an unconventional perspective on things in life, like parenthood, motherhood, parenthood, marriage, relationship dynamics, like cohabitating like as a couple, schooling, like public schooling versus homeschooling. Like I think that growing up unconventionally has given me an unconventional perspective on things in life. And I actually think of that as a positive, because I think that a lot of things in the standard way of being like should be challenged, not like just for the sake of challenging. And I don't want to like dive deep into it, but like when it comes to parenthood, when it comes to marriage, I have like some unpopular opinions, if you will, or like unconventional. Like one thing okay, I'll give an example. I do not believe, like knowing what I know now, I do not believe that young people should date at all before the age of 25. I know that's a bit unconventional. Well, if you realize how unconventional of an upbringing I had, then it might make a little bit more sense why I think that way. But I truly, truly believe that we can make better decisions for ourselves once we are older than the age of 25 because of that prefrontal lobe that has finished developing at that age. And then I just really believe that if we spent our adolescence like engaging in skill building activities, then we would arrive to our young adulthood being more capable as individuals and having greater self-direction and self-awareness as individuals. And then if we spent the age from 20 to 25 establishing our credit score, establishing a steady income and housing stability, then we would be able to arrive to relationships or approach relationships in a healthier manner instead of people just looking for someone to take care of them. Because that's kind of what it sounds like when I hear the rhetoric or the discourse online. It just sounds like people are looking for someone to like take care of them and fund their lifestyles or to come and be like their mom basically. And it's like, no, take care of yourself instead of humping on each other and instead of, putting stuff in your nose, all that, dumb shit that people like to do, excuse me, but like instead of being reckless in your teen years and being reckless for the first half of your 20s, work. Because if you don't work now, you're going to work later. And listen to these 30-something-year-olds. Listen to these 40-something-year-olds. Listen to the 50-year-olds. They are tired. But you don't, I personally, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to be 40 or 50 and still like struggling with the same financial issues. You're going to have issues all throughout this life. But at 40 and 50, I don't think you're supposed to have the same issues, especially if you had age 20 and age your 20s and your 30s to like make more progress. But it's like, what were you doing when you were 20? Were you bringing children into this world even though you had no stability? Well, that's why you're struggling now in your 30s and your 40s. Like, make better decisions. I truly believe we will be better people and have healthier relationships and healthier examples to set for children if we spent our adolescence and our young adulthood, like the first half of our 20s in particular, focusing on ourselves and embarking on that journey of self-discovery that I mentioned earlier, and skill building and like working towards a vision for ourselves. My circumstances forced me to do that earlier. So that's why I think the way that I do. But I mean, I think it would be really beneficial because who you are when you're like 17 is not who you are by the time you're 27. Like, you have more clarity, you have a greater sense of your standards. Hopefully there are things that you wouldn't accept as a 27-year-old girl that you are likely to accept when you're 17. You know why guys like you when you're 17, 18, 19, barely legal, as the predators like to call it, is because you are so gullible and you are, I'm trying not to say like stupid, but you don't know you just don't know like where someone who's older than you should be by that point in time. Yes, everyone develops at their own pace, but like, for example, like I heard someone, a 19-year-old girl say, oh, well, you know what? My man has his own place and my man has his own car and my man, is going to school. My man has things that he's working towards. And it's like only a goofy ass, excuse me, but only a goofy ass 19-year-old girl is bragging about this stuff because her 19-year-old self doesn't understand that a guy who's in his 20s, that's where he's supposed to be. He is supposed to have his own place. He is supposed to have his own means of transportation, or at least enough money to get himself around. That's not something you're supposed to be bragging about and applauding him for. But you know why the older guys will go for you when you're young? Because you're impressed by the 30-year-old who has his own car. Because you may not have your own car, or most of your friends don't have their own car, so you can't even gauge like where that 40-year-old man or that 30-year-old man or that 25-year-old guy is supposed to be when you're like 18 and 19. But it's like if you spent more time building up yourself and establishing things for yourself, then when you do enter that pool of dating, then you're not so impressed by like the lowest hanging fruit, because you have higher standards and you know to just like to want better or to expect better. I don't know. It's just my 2 cents, but that's just one example of how I just think unconventionally. I'm sure most people would have a hard time refraining from engaging in um, romantic or sexual relationships with other people until the age of 25 or older. But, you know, that's just my 2 cents. Moving on. The question is, do you regret your decision to become emancipated? I did think about this. I wrote down the answer no. No, I don't regret it at all. I would absolutely do it all over again. I absolutely would become an emancipated minor. I don't regret that decision at all. The next question is, what would you have done differently, or what would you have wanted to happen differently? Okay, so this one, I'm going to start with what I would have wanted to happen differently, because that's just a shorter list than what I would have done differently. So honestly, the only thing I would have wanted to happen differently is when it came to my sisters being in the courtroom and literally encouraging my father to say no. If in an ideal world, I would have preferred for that to not have happened. And it's only because that situation cemented the feelings of disdain that I had for my sisters already. Like, that was like the final nail in the coffin for me. I think had that not happened, then maybe in my 20s, like I would be like more open to the idea of a relationship with my sisters, maybe. Like, but after that, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that was the and I think actually, like they say, everything happens for a reason. That probably needed to happen so that I wouldn't have any more compassion for them, and so that I wouldn't like hold on to this idea, because it's my compassion for people that has gotten me into trouble and that has kept me in relationships that I should have walked away from a lot sooner. It's that compassion. I think God knows that about me. So being able to see them stand in the way of my freedom, despite everything that they have been put through at the hands of my parents, that was it for me. Like I've heard people say like you have to learn how to forgive for the sake of all, your well-being, and I definitely think I have forgiven them, but I that forgiveness is not coupled with a desire to like rekindle things. I personally, I just think some things are unforgivable. Someone told me everything is forgivable. No, I don't think so. I don't think everything is forgivable. Nope. I have standards. Okay. I don't think everything is forgivable. If I don't do things to you, you're not going to do those things to me. When it came to my sisters, my 2 older sisters, like I said when I was answering an earlier question, I witnessed my parents jump my sister. I witnessed them abuse her. I witnessed that. And then she took off and she lived with her employer, just like I ended up living with my employer too. I didn't ever stand in the way of that. I understood that she didn't feel safe in that home, and she did what she needed to do. She left. Right? I never stood in the way of that. My other sister, something traumatic happened to her. And you know what? The same thing that my foster brother did to me, which was sexual abuse when I was 5 and in kindergarten, the same thing that happened to me happened to her, when she was older, of course. And when she went back home, our mother told her that it was her fault because of the way that she dresses. Imagine that, right? She called me on the phone when I was working and she told me about it. And you know what? I stayed there on the phone. I listened to her. I wasn't even an emancipated minor yet. I was under the guardianship. I was 15. I listened to her. She talked to me about what the couple did to her. And it was awful what happened to her. She didn't deserve that. Even though she, put my toothbrush up her butt cheeks and did all this awful stuff to me, I still stood there. I listened to her. I was supposed to be working, but I was just back there in the back room just listening to her. I, told her she didn't deserve that. I let her confide in me. I was for her what she wasn't for me. When my foster brother violated me, one of the foster girls came downstairs and saw what was happening to me and just went back upstairs and told everyone, I guess, that I was having relations, even though that's not what was happening. And the entire the entire household, treated me like I was dirty or something like that. And I didn't even know for sure that my sister knew because it was never discussed. Like, no one helped me through that situation, no one. And then when we were living with our biological parents, that same sister, we had just met our family, we just met them. And she said to me, she said, go do my chores that our dad told her to do. And I said, no. And she said, if you don't do the chores, I'm going to tell everyone that you had sex with our brother. I was 7 when she threatened this over me. We had just met these people who are supposed to be our family. And she was so vindictive and so mean-spirited that she wanted to smear my name and make sure that I was going to be uncomfortable in this home. And you know what? When she told me what happened to her, and she talked to me on the phone, all I wanted to do was tell her, do you remember when you said that to me? Do you remember how you held sexual assault over me? But no. Instead, I did for her what she didn't know how to do for me, even though she's my older sister. Instead, I told her that it wasn't her fault, that she didn't deserve it, all the things that she never said to me. I didn't hold it over her. I chose to be mature and not remind her of it. I chose to be for her who I needed her to be for me. And even after that, a year later, when it was my turn to get my freedom and her opportunity to be there for me, instead, her and my other sister chose to stand there and tell my father to reject or to deny my petition. And for those of you who don't know, you can't get emancipated if your parents say no. In most states, that's how it works, which is ridiculous because usually you're running from your parents, like you're trying to free yourself from the people who are abusing you or harming you, and they have the ultimate power because this justice system is an injustice system. Then if it weren't for the judge who advocated for me because she was impressed by my petition that I wrote, then I would be probably dead somewhere at the hands of my mother, or I'd be living under my parents' roof. And it hurt my feelings, it hurt my heart that both of my sisters know the hurt and the trauma that I endured. My sisters witnessed my mother stomp me out. Like they witnessed her choke me, like lift my 8-year-old body into the air and slam me against the wall repeatedly, bash my head into the wall until I fell down, and then proceed to stomp on my head repeatedly. I can't get the image of her foot on my face out of my head. And my sisters witnessed this. But I guess they were so desensitized or out of touch. I don't know. But I guess they were so unaware of how I was hurting on the inside, because when it was my time to be let go, they really stood in the way of that. And to me, that is unforgivable, because I would have died in that house and nobody would have saved me. That is unforgivable to me. That is the only thing I would have preferred to happen differently, because maybe, just maybe, I would have been willing to talk to them now. But no, I can't let something like that go, because no matter what, I would not stand in the way of somebody's freedom. Not when I know the horrors that they have been put through. No. Moving on. What would I have done differently? There are just a few things I would have done differently. Because for the most part, like, I'm satisfied. Excuse me. I'm satisfied with the decisions that I made for the most part. But there are a few things I would have done differently. For starters, I wrote down that I would have worked for another company in addition to working for my temporary guardian. And this is to have had more income and to have had a smoother transition when it was time to sever the ties with her, because like I said earlier, she forbade me to work for another company and said that was my way of contributing to the household. And all this did was make it harder for me to have enough money when it was time to go. When it was my senior year, or when it was my junior year, she divorced her husband. And right before she divorced her husband, she was on a dating app looking for like the new man that was going to replace him. She went on vacation with him, left me with her husband, her dog, her business, left me with all the responsibility, and then came back. And the day that her husband moved out, or left, like the new man like moved in, if not the same day, then the very next day I came home from school and him and his dog were there. And then now there was this new energy in the home, and it was like super uncomfortable. And she was like just planning her new life, and I knew she was getting ready to leave for California, and I was not going to go with them because that man was racist. From, you know, things that he had said, it was clear to me, you know, that he was racist. We literally went to a Chinese buffet, and literally we sat down, and he's like, they need to do something about these illegals. They need to get these illegals out of here. I'm foreign, okay? I am a US citizen, yes, but like my parents are foreign Americans, immigrants. We're in a Chinese buffet, sir. Like, you don't talk like that. You don't talk like that, like when you're amongst foreigners. And then, you know, like the Americans, the Yankees, the Anglo-Saxons were the first illegals. It doesn't get any more illegal than the people who just came here and raped and pillaged and slaughtered their way across the land. But it's interesting how they disassociate from that fact. But you know, that was enough for me. Other things transpired. Like I said, that woman choked me, that woman did other things to me. So I knew that I wasn't going to stay in that situation. But one of the things I should have tried to do, that what I would have done, if I like went back in time, is I would have found a way to work a second job, even if it was just a couple of days after school, in addition to working for her company, which I did literally full time. And then, of course, in addition to maintaining good academic standing, I would have found a way to make it work because I needed money. And when it was time to go, it was very difficult for me because I didn't have enough money. Even when I went off to school, like I only had $1,200 to my name. So when I had to leave school because of the mishap with my financial aid, or with my tax documents, they wanted me to pay $3,000 out of pocket. And I was like, absolutely not, because I don't have, you know, money for that. So anywho, that's just one thing I would have done. I would have worked for another company to have an additional stream of income. Another thing I wrote down is that I would have communicated with my teachers to find other resources and have guidance to help me know how I was being exploited. Like I was in the dark, and I also just didn't talk to other people. Like I didn't tell my teachers. I didn't really share what was going on in my circumstances except for with like one or two close friends. So that kept me, like I said, in the dark. It kept me just unaware as to how I was being exploited because I didn't have another adult to intervene and let me know that certain things shouldn't have been happening to me. Another thing I wrote down is that I would have continued with my YouTube content as a high school student in order to build my creativity, my voice, and to find community. I used to do skits on YouTube under a different YouTube channel and a different name, I mean. And I had fun with it. Literally, the only reason I stopped is because of something my legal guardian said. She, for whatever reason, she was like 51 when I met her. I was 15. This was a 50-year-old woman who, for whatever reason, like wanted to discourage me when it came to anything that I pursued. She had a son who was very artistic and musically inclined, and so she knew how to support him. But then when it came to me and me wanting to write a book, like I told her I was writing my poetry collection, she didn't think too much of that. She got mad when I showed her friend, when her friend asked me to see it, or just asked me what I was up to. And I told her, she was like, oh, you're writing? Like, can I see it? Like, she never took interest in my stuff. She made fun of me. Literally, earlier this year, I published my personal development course. It's called the Journey to Self-Love course, and it's available on Amazon. My link tree is in the description if you're interested. There's a digital and a physical course, if you're interested in either. But I was working on that, and I started writing it in 2017. I wrote like most of Unit 1 in 2017, and I just recently finished it this year and published it. And she told me, you're writing a self-help book and you can't even help yourself. She said this to me when I was 18 and I had just come back from college, and I was on like I was in a gap semester writing my poetry collection before, you know, I started working and stuff. And if you actually go read the course, or if you end up buying the course, you will see that quote in the manuscript, because she said, put that in your book. She said, you're writing a self-help course and you can't even help yourself. And she said, put that in your book. I was like, oh, I will. And like a true Capricorn who doesn't let anything go, I put it in the book. So yeah, she just like discouraged me. Like she told me, oh, she was like, I'm not going to send my kid to school to go learn about self-love. And I'm like, spoken like someone who doesn't know how to respect themselves, spoken like someone who needs self-care and self-love. Her, you know, her life showed that she lacked self-love and self-respect. And of course that led to her, you know, making fun of me and discouraging me. And I think it really just boiled down to her not making nearly as good as decisions as me when she was my age, and then like feeling resentful towards me for that reason, because that seems to be the reoccurring theme with some of these adults, like my so-called friend's dad making fun of me for like being at home all the time. It's like, I don't have any children. I'm like not bothering anybody. I'm not like in la calle haciendo drogas, haciendo mamadas. I'm not out here doing stupid shit. Excuse me, like you're passing judgment on me. Your daughter's out there in the street at 12 a.m. Your daughter's posting provocative, inappropriate pictures of herself, and you're complaining to me about it. But you make fun of me. Like, I'm not out here giving my father a stroke because I'm posting OnlyFans type content. Like, I'm not out here doing anything to anybody to like inconvenience anyone. Yet they pass, these adults, these bumfuck ass adults passing judgment on me. On me. Tuh. You know, that's one of the things that trips me out, because it's like, I really do mind my business. I may be strongly opinionated and a little bit critical, but I'm constructive with the criticism, okay? It's like, I didn't deserve for these grown adults to treat me like this. Like, I've said a prayer to God, like, God, if I get to that age, please don't let me be this bitter, miserable adult who's hating on Gen Zers, or they won't be Gen Zers, but hating on people several generations younger than me, all because I didn't make good decisions when I was young like they are, because that's really what it seems to be. Another thing that I wrote down is, oh yeah, no, oh, okay, so that's it. There's a new question now. But yeah, so basically I would have continued with my content. I got discouraged because of the loud negative voice that was around me, and that was that of my legal guardian. I would have continued because, I mean, look at how YouTube has grown. Like, okay, so my battery died again. I'm gonna try to be quick with the rest of these because I know this is probably so long. I'm gonna have fun editing it though. Probably not, honestly. But yes, I know this is probably long and I probably don't have much storage space on my card, so I'm gonna like rush through this. But yes, there's only a couple more questions anyway. But yes, basically I just would have continued with my art and my creativity instead of letting people discourage me, because I would be further along on my content creating journey. And like I said, mainly just with building my creativity or my creative skills and finding my voice, and then, you know, just finding like-minded people who like to talk about the same things that I like to talk about. Oh, the next question is, what would you do the same? I wrote down